Well, hello and welcome. And not too long ago, there was a big clash between lecturers basically and the state over what they call book and research allowance. The government says, you know what, I'm going to put all the money in the pot. You do your research, you come and probably prove what research you did and take some of the money out of the kitty. The research lecturers were saying, no, that's not how it's been done. You always give us our allowance, and as and when we do our research and business goes on. Now they came to a deadlock, but eventually the state is back down to say, no problem, you can have your money as well. So therefore, our government has released 37 million cedis as book and research allowance. Is it going to continue? Is it just to calm matters down until further notice, or how do we go forward? And I have some two gallant men in the studio who will speak to this issue. And there are a few questions where I think we should all ask as to, which aspect of the money goes into books, which aspect of the money goes into research. And all students will say, oh, my notes are the same notes as my father when they went to school. My father was an old boy of Invansipum, and my notes and his are the same. Meanwhile, the teachers and everyone have been collecting this allowance. So where are the research work and who is seeing them? So we're going to find out about that. My name is Anan Sakwa the Fourth, Akwamu Edumasahini, and also your host. When I come, I will introduce my fine guest to you. So don't move. Well, thank you very much for staying, and that's the big topic. You see, and this is my analogy. I say that every society is equal and direct to the value it places on its teachers. If you place superior value to your teachers, you have a superior society. If you place low value to the teachers, you have a low value society. Now that's my own thinking, but I stand by it. Because whoever you are, no matter how high or low, at some point in your life, you need to go through a teacher. It could even be the Pope. You have to go through a teacher to become the Pope. And so it all depends on how much this teacher knows and how much more the teacher adds information, and then they pass it on to you, and then you build upon it to become whoever you are. So if you refuse to make the teacher a force to be reckoned, and yet still send your words to him, and you expect your word to come out to be super, that's a miracle on its own. So the value we place on our teachers is equal and direct to the value of the society. And here we are with some super gentlemen. Directly next to me is Courage Kwesi Nobi, who is Executive Director, Youth in Good Governance and Advocacy Program. Sounds very interesting. And then I have Dr. Samuel Nkumba, UTAG Secretary. PhD. Those days when somebody comes with a PhD, it was big, grey hair, spectacles, But these days, the age of information, we are being blessed having young doctors, which means we can tap his brains for a long time before. But let me start with taking your preliminary comments on, government has now released this 37 million for book allowance. So, UTAG, we say that we've achieved what you wanted, or?
Well, thank you very much. Generally, we would say so. And the reality is also that is something that is in the news. We have had some correspondence to the effect that that money has been released. But as we speak, the lecturers are yet to access that. And I can say for a fact that there is mounting pressure on the leadership of UTAG from the general membership. And so I know the protocols are quite outrageous in terms of the processes it goes through before it gets to the individual lecturers. And so we are just calling on the powers responsible for its disbursement to do that and do that quickly.
Was that the amount that was owed, the allowance of the fund, or is that the amount owed?
Well, generally, it is a cumulative of the various campuses and the members that are entitled, all put together is what is added up to that. And so...
No, what I want to find is this figure what has been owed from the time all this...
Exactly. It's for one academic year, the previous academic year, the 2014-2015 academic year.
And this goes to basically only UTAG or...
No, this doesn't go to
UTAG.
Yes, it goes to UTAG, it goes to POTAG, it goes to some other accredited institutions, including National Council for Tertiary Education, some of the workers there. It also goes to some, the book component also goes to some of the senior members administrative. So generally, it is not only UTAG members that are enjoying this facility.
Okay. Let me bring Courage in here. Courage, what's your initial take on this?
Thank you very much, Nana, and good evening to your viewers. It's interesting that 2015 budget, which should have catered for this money, did not make provision for it. Again, 2016 budget hasn't made any provision for it because government had a stand that we want to establish a fund, a pool, into which you come and source. And UTAG said, no, we want the previous. So because of that, no provision had been made for this money. It baffles my mind as to where this money was taken from. If you think about it casually, you think that this is election year spending. Election year spending to please the necessary voters, just so that you get vote, because you'd wonder why government will back down on its stance. I think they had quite a solid case. UTAG also had quite a solid case. You've not come to a resolution, so why disburse now?
You don't trust the decision.
I do not.
You don't trust the decision.
Yeah.
But
even though I believe that they deserve the money to conduct research, I've had the benefit of being taught by very good lecturers who were very current with information. They were not giving us the notes that probably they received as students or the notes that they used for the past 5 academic years or other things. But they give you current information, what is happening in the world. They localize the content and everything. And you need to have access to information, i.e. research, to be able to do that kind of education.
Doc, you see, the general perception, and perception, if not corrected, becomes the truth, is that Ghanaian lecturers don't research, and that most of the examples are based on McDonald's setup, KFC setup, or every marketing book you pick up is from America, and to some of the things to localize it is quite difficult, because even the people you are marketing to don't understand that strategy in the book. So after you've studied it and you've come out and you are working with a corporation, it becomes difficult. I mean, how many people even have computers for you to say, send me your email so I forward you update? Yeah. So then we start arguing, say the research bank no more here because all this.
Yeah, generally I would say that there are basically two types of research that university lecturers would engage in. One is the desktop kind of research, which would involve you updating your notes year in, year out, acquiring new books, and so, like he said, being current in your field of study in terms of the new directions, and which you as well would incorporate on a semester basis. Take note that lecturers are the ones who develop the course syllabus per semester. It is unlike the lower levels where you are provided a course syllabus and then you go by that and then you deliver whatever content that is in there. And also the universities have a system they call quality assurance, and so you are required to submit a copy of your course outline every semester through this process. And so that forms the teaching portfolio for a lecturer towards the university retaining you or sending you out, the university promoting you to the next level or not. And then the second level is the academic type, which requires that you are going to be producing an academic paper for peer-reviewed journal publications or for book chapters or for a book. And so in all of these, we should also be aware that lecturers, by their appointment, are promoted on the basis of research output, and which means that if you don't publish, there is this mantra that when you are employed, you would hear the senior ones tell you, you publish or you perish. And so for anybody to think that lecturers will not conduct research, I think is just a perception, and it's a misconception of the issues.
So, is it that maybe as your students have come, you don't come in and say, listen, for the past 6 months, I've been researching on this, and this is the findings I came up with. So that when the students leave the class, they can also repeat by saying, oh, look, my lecturer did the research and came up with this. Because there's more news out of lecturers not researching than there is lecturers researching.
I think I'll come to that. I'm currently an MPhil student at the University of Professional Studies in my second year in August. And you wouldn't expect a lecturer to come and say, oh, I've been doing this and all of that. But when you listen to your lecturer speak and the kind of examples your lecturer gives in class, if you look at your reading list when the course outline is giving you, and you look at what books or articles have been cited in there, and their dates and years of publication and all of that, then you know whether this lecturer is current and is up to date with the information that is available or otherwise. So it will be, I think, quite funny to expect your lecturer to say, oh, I've been doing this research and this and that. And there are times when, if you're a serious student, a lecturer could actually call you and work with you.
I'm not actually saying they don't do research. And I hope I'm not the only one saying it, but you've heard it on radio, serial callers, I'm doing research, you know, so that's the perception out there. I'm just trying to find out why it is that perception has been allowed to grow, you know, to the point where the reason why people will say they shouldn't give you the money is because they think or presume that you're just going to pocket the money and that there's no research going to be done.
Well, generally, I am of the opinion that it is majority of the people who are out of the university system who really have not gone through it and know the ins and outs of what happens. Like I said, quality assurance will not allow you to have a certain list of books on your course outline repeatedly over, unless, of course, it's a core material that must definitely be studied. If not, they will require you to provide, even when you are doing your MPhil, he's an MPhil student, when you are producing your dissertation, the kind of material you cite, how current are they? They shouldn't be over a decade old. And so there is no reason to think that, so for the benefit of the public that have been fed with that information that university lecturers do not engage in any form of research, it is untrue. And it is also, if students of our institutions are to look at the course outlines they are given, they come with a list of reference materials. Some of them are domestic, some of them are localized materials. I in the last 10 years, have over 10 publications. And we have senior professors who have 30 plus, 50 plus publications. And some of these are materials that are added to the kind of the course content. If, for example, you are teaching political science and you have a publication on the subject matter which relates to what students should be learning, nothing stops you from putting it in your course outline. And so, just to clear the air, it is not the case that university lecturers don't research, because they have to be current, they have to get promoted, and they get promoted by virtue of research output through publication.
Let me take a quick break here, and then when I come back, we need to find out which would have been better, to put the money in the fund so that the lecturers who actually research access, and you know, maybe the little ones who don't do research don't get access. Would that have been a better one? And what has been the resolution? Is the resolution that henceforth you will just be paid your money, or the fund is eventually going to come? As my brother Courage is a little bit suspicious of what's going on. Don't move.
This book and research allowances will cover 6,483 staff. 2,000 across the country. A whopping 2,230 are non-teaching staff. And so you ask the question, is this judicious use of resources? And if we are to commit ourselves to the Africa Union target of spending 1% of GDP on research, and most African countries are nowhere there. I think that the last time I looked at the literature, it's only South Africa that is doing that. We are committed to meeting that target. So we have said that what happens elsewhere, especially in the Americas and Europe, where research is taken serious, is that they have a national research fund where those who have research to conduct, especially, our academics in higher education institutions, submit their research proposals and assess the fund based on the budget required. So if you need $500,000 or $1 million for your research, you are guaranteed that you can get it. Instead of this, arrangement where we spread it thin for everybody, even those who may not have any research interest that year to pursue are all getting it. And then those who really may have a research interest that particular year and will even need more money are disadvantaged. So that is why we mooted the idea of the National Research Fund. And let me emphasize that the idea has not been abandoned. I listened to your ever interesting newspaper review segment, and the suggestion was as though government has backtracked or we have abandoned the idea. We have not. Actually, we have made a lot of progress. As I speak to you, Parliament has received the Tertiary Education Research Fund bill, and it has been laid by the Speaker of Parliament. So it is currently before the Education Committee of Parliament. And we are going to be having stakeholder consultations any moment from now. So you see a lot of progress has been made. What we agreed with the unions is that we will continue to pay the book and research allowances in its current format until such a time that we conclude the consultations and discussions on the Tertiary Education Research Fund bill. When the bill is passed, then we will now change over into a new regime. So that is what we are working with. And we, as a government, it's important to keep agreements. Once the unions, POTAG and UTAG, agreed with us, and we signed that memorandum of understanding at the Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations. And when Honorable Haruna Idrisu comes through, he will confirm to you that he convened that session, and we reached that gentleman agreement that we will continue to maintain the status quo, where the book and research allowances will continue to be paid, whilst we will also continue to work on the Tertiary Education Research Fund bill. The Attorney General's Department has been very helpful. Cabinet has approved. It has now been forwarded to Parliament. It has been laid. It is before the Education Committee. And when the consultations begin, I'm sure the media will be invited. I mean, our academics, those who have interest in research, industry, very, very important, because industry is expected to really take up the findings of these research that will be put forward. So we will have this broad, stakeholder consultations as part of the process leading to the Tertiary Education Research Fund. I must also be fair in my submissions to put forward that there are sections of the academic community, sections of faculty, who have indicated that they will still prefer a two-tier approach. In other words, they would prefer that the book and research allowances and the new Tertiary Education Research Fund run concurrently. They will want that both regimes are available. But these are all discussions that will continue to hold, and we are hoping that very soon we will reach an amicable and agreeable way forward. So let's get it clear. The book and research allowances has not been scrapped, but also the National Research Fund idea has not been jettisoned. It's not been abandoned. We are going to continue to pursue it in the interest of research, in the interest of development.
Well, so there we are, some questions answered before we even hit the table. So the fund hasn't been abandoned. They're just making the payment now until such time that the bill will be going. But why is UTEC or the teaching fraternity against the fund type rather than the platform? Because in this one, I did a calculation here, 37 million average 6,300. Everybody's going to pocket about 5,800 Ghana cedis on the average. I'm sure there are a couple of lecturers who can't be bothered. They still have their father's notes. So why don't you, Doc, have you done any research maybe this year or last year?
No, certainly. I have been involved with research almost every year.
Almost every year.
And as part of the process, even I'm in a discipline that is pretty practical, and so almost every year is even a requirement.
May I ask your field?
I'm in the discipline of archaeology and heritage studies.
Okay.
And so it's even there is an imperative to take students on practical field training, and so all of these things go into some of such research projects.
You must be a very depressed person, looking at how we just waste our heritage and our archaeology.
Oh, for real. It is the case. That is one of the sectors that is not given attention at all. And to share with the listening public, we have had the opportunity last couple of years to encounter just a lump of clay, and knowing from the ethnographic context that our people apply clays to heal certain ailments, we took this to the laboratory, and interestingly, we are getting results that suggest that this is a clay that is very good for cell rejuvenation and bone growth. And so we are working with biomedical engineering and biochemistry on this clay. However, the kind of research grants that we have for these things are not worth the salt, because note that this research allowance that has been released is only 500 Ghana cedis, which is the research component of the total amount per individual. 500 Ghana cedis for the whole academic year. And so if you are saying that people don't do research, if I'm to fuel my vehicle from Accra to Tamale for purposes of research, which is my area of research interest.
Probably ran down. By the time you get to Brekum, you short petrol.
You short petrol, and then you have to get back.
Let me put this number out there: 0560 800 000. 0560 800 000, because I know this is a very sentimental topic, and you would want to put your questions in. This one says. Okay, I'll come back and read this one later.
Yes. And so that is why we are of the opinion that what we currently are enjoying is some form of, it's part of our condition of service anyway. And
so if out of 5,800, 500 is for research, then what, 5,000 is for books?
There is a dollar component, which is $1,500 of book allowance, and then 500 Ghana cedis as research allowance. So the two put together is what is given as the total amount that is quoted. So you have $1,500, CD equivalent of $1,500 as
to buy books,
book allowance, and then you have 500 Ghana cedis as research allowance.
But I mean
that is so we and it's part of our condition of service, and that is what we use to develop course outlines. We use to improve, gain current knowledge as well as far as our disciplines are concerned. So it doesn't really have to do with the kind of research that you would want to be able to do in order to impact development. And so as far back as the year 2009 was when UTAC proposed that alongside this, which is for desktop research, improve your lecture notes, give students current material, let's set up a national research fund alongside this. The National Research Fund is going to be policy targeted, is going to be development oriented, so that individuals who are seeking to do cutting edge research, which will produce results that will influence policy, will influence developmental agenda, then of course you can source money from that. So assuming what is there currently, which provides some basic grant for every single person to be able to do this kind of desktop research to improve your lecture notes and so on. If that is taken off, what it means is that every lecturer, including industry, including private individuals, are going to submit proposals for grants through the National Research Fund. And it's going to go through a competitive bidding. Who are the reviewers? We are yet to get through all of those details. And what it means is that if that is not the development interest of the country, then it's likely that your field of study, you will never get any money for research. And so those are the dynamics.
You know, because we don't care
Well,
about we don't care about our history.
With or without the National Research Fund, individuals are going beyond the borders of Ghana and seeking funding from international organizations and getting funding. All right. And so even this research I mentioned to you, for example, we are soliciting support from a UK-based agency, Collections Trust. And so the proposal is ongoing. And we are not talking about mean sums of 5,000 Ghana cedis or 500 Ghana cedis the whole year. We are talking about millions of dollars, which you can use to produce something that would affect society, would affect the nation. All right. So those are the differences in the kinds of research that we should be engaged with.
Doc, I'm sorry, but since you are here, let me deviate small and come back. What is it that makes us as a people not bother about our history and where we came from and trying to protect it? Maybe in your field you might have come across some research somewhere.
Well, in fact, it's very strange. I was a witness to the fact that because we wanted to build a sea defense wall somewhere, we're pulling down one of the forts that was built by the Europeans as part of our contact with them to build a sea defense wall. But I mean, Ghana had the shortest stretch of coastline. We had the most forts and castles, numbering up to about 160. So assuming all of these were preserved and had their histories documented, that would be the hub of tourism for Europeans who were once here. But here we are singing, we want to promote tourism, and yet the areas where we have competitive advantage are not the areas we are emphasizing.
What is it that makes us like that? Have you come across
I'm unable to put a finger at something because...
let me not divert too much. Let me not divert too much. But Courage, I mean, which is best? To put the money in the pot and get those who are serious finding some, medicinal clay to come and take some, or just give everybody, $1,500. And these days, who's going to buy a book? Just go to Amazon, and every book you're looking for pretty much will be there on your laptop. You don't have to carry your whole library with you. Take your laptop, go everywhere, and you have all your books, with you. And they are what? $10, $15, $20, at most $100, you have the... So what should we do?
No, it is interesting that he mentions an amount that is a mere roughly $1,610 for research. In fact, with or without the National Research Fund, the teachers actually need more than this. I am also a teacher. I teach at the secondary level in an international system. And if I look at how my work is facilitated, I don't think even lecturers have it that way. You have very good internet, you have access to books, access to online journals, and so much resources that you cannot teach the same content twice. You always it keeps changing. And the organizations that actually run these programs, I'm talking about the Cambridge and then IB, actually do so much research to inform practice. So constantly there are changes going on and everything. And the quantums of money they spend is not what is being mentioned here. So you need a serious national research fund, which is properly resourced, okay, to have people like Doc here come and assess that to do what they want to do, irrespective of how much you're given, because this is actually a peanut. The interesting thing, however, is that if you take a look at the budgets from 2012 coming, there was a steady rise up to 2014, government allocation to education, and then it started falling. So 2015 saw about 4.9 billion, and as we speak, 2016 allocated about 4.8 billion. Now, whereas that happens, the amount or the component that goes into compensation has actually risen from 73% to 75%. So what amount are you then going to set aside for this research that you're talking about? We are in trouble as far as funding education in this country is concerned. Donor funding has dwindled to a mere 2%. So what exactly is government trying to say? We need a serious approach to education in this country. And the approach that says that, yes, you're doing your bit with the little that we are giving you, but again, we are setting up this huge fund. And we are not talking about we want to see millions or billions of dollar funds for research. For instance, what Doc is doing is so important. You know, the women of old did not apply Chile and all of that for nothing. It had its medicinal aspect, its medicinal component. We've lost our identity as a result of that, so we are moving towards it. So it has implications for identity, implications for medicine, implications for beauty therapy, and all of that. But so such research is so important to the extent that it can lead to some rejuvenation in the nation's psyche, in embracing the self and its environment and everything. And that is what proper education is supposed to lead us to.
Oh, let me go to the phones and speak to Emmanuel Japan, who's the POTAC president, and see what his views are on this. Emmanuel, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Very good. I have in the studio Dr. Samuel Kuban, and I have Courage Kwesinobi. We are talking education, and we are glad that you're joining us because that's your bread and butter. Doc, the government says they've released 37 million CDs as a book and research allowance, and we want to find out what POTAG's position or views are on this. I mean, is that the way forward, or you are more of the fund? Hello, Emmanuel, can you hear me?
Yeah, but your volume is a little bit
My volume is
low.
a bit low. Let me try and amplify it a little bit. I was asking about the news with regards to 37 million CDs towards your book and research fund. How is POTAC receiving it?
Oh, well, the book and research, you see, the fund has a specific purpose. So, I mean, every academic year is supposed to, enable the lecturers to teach and teach better. So, the news is okay, except that even the academic year for which it is supposed to be used for is ended. And we are entering into a new one. So it's good news, but we would wish that it comes at the appropriate time for it to be used for the purpose for which it was set up.
So you reckon the allowance should come and then there should be a separate fund as well?
Oh, well, you see, this separate fund issue, you see, it looks like we are confusing two things.
Mm-hmm.
The concept of book and research allowance is something minimal that is given to these lecturers to buy certain basic but important books that they require, which, of course, are not available in the school libraries for students. So if the lecturer has it, he can make available the information and data to the students through the lectures. That is what the Book and Research Fund is all about. We also search for information on the internet, and you pay $9.99 here and there to download and even have access to certain, research publications. Now, when we talk about a national research fund, of course, the name too, at times we are talking about confusing a tertiary education research fund and then national research fund. A national research fund has its own purpose, and it shouldn't be confused with the book and research allowance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I have also in the studio Courage Kwesinobi, very dynamic young man who thinks that even though the money is not being paid, it's just peanuts. And for true, lecturer for a whole year, $1,500, you're not going to come up with anything significant. And then ideally, he's proposing that maybe more should be given.
Well, yeah. If as a matter of fact, you see, we are talking about a situation where there is a need for something, and the minimal, given the decline in the economy of Ghana and other things, what we are giving is a minimal amount. You see, so that minimal amount, if it could be augmented, that is very, very true. But if we are augmenting it, and talking about a replacement with a national research fund, then in fact it's like we are playing the ball to the offside, because a national research fund actually is something that has to do with what we call the this knowledge-based society and knowledge-based economy, where research, basic and applied research is conducted. The results come out with product deliverables. And Ghana is not trying to reinvent the wheel. In fact, in Australia, America, Finland, everywhere, a national research fund with a national research council that disburses it. It's not only for higher education at all.
Okay.
Even industries may have their in-house research establishment. They can all apply for that fund. And that fund has a very solid objective. That is not what if that is what they are talking about, they shouldn't meddle it with a book and research allowance for teachers who are supposed to teach and teach well using that. That is not the purpose.
Thank you very much there. That was Emmanuel Ajimai, president of POTAC. But let me catch up with some of your messages coming in. This is Derek in Kuforidia. He says, Nana, you said it all. If all chiefs will think of teachers like you just said, our society will be a better place. Teachers are not treated well in society, and so society will not change. Let's go here. This one says, good evening. I think if we will be a little patient for our leaders, good things can be achieved within time. The lecturers should also show a little commitment and know that we are in a digital age, and when they are talking about book and research allowance, it may sound strange. Looking at staff Google offer, Mr. Concern as saying Fusu. So maybe Google and research and Google allowance. I don't know. This one says, hello, Nana. Ask them, how can someone pay for research that you are going to use to teach and get paid as well, whereby teachers are supposed to research before they go to class? I don't understand why government has to pay before you do your research. Meanwhile, they are being paid for their teaching services. Yes, they are paying for their teaching, but not the research to teach. But I'll get them to answer. Hi, Nana Ansakwa. I beg you, in the name of God, text me the number. Oh, okay. Okay, that was you want the number of a doctor who came on the show some time ago. I'll try and get that for you. This one says, seriously, the money paid to lecturers is nothing to write home about. Elsewhere, each researcher is given six-figure amounts to develop their research capacity, to enhance their quality of research, to compete for huge sums nationally and internationally. I think the problem in Ghana is that there are non-academics who enjoy this fund. And that is the mistake we have made. In fact, there should be an increase in the fund and that of national fund. This is EKA in Kumasi. So let's make a note and find out the non-teaching staff who enjoy it, what it is at all they do that they take this fund. Let me take one last one and go for a break, and then keep your messages coming. I'll come. There's lots of messages. Now, I think the fund thing is what should prevail. They do not do any proper research. Left to them alone, they will want their money in bits. Go to the College of Engineering, KUSD. So old staff. You didn't add your name. I'm taking a break, and I want to come back. We'll find out how the non-teaching staff get research. Well, the SETI Reality and the Ministry of Water Resources, Works and Housing present the Multi-TV Habitat Fair 2016. I visited the second mini Habitat Fair at the West Hills Mall from Friday 29th to Saturday 30th July 2016, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily to receive free guidance on all your housing and household needs. Now, the attractions are free car washing from beautiful ladies of Auto Centrum, free turtle wax car washing product giveaway again from Auto Centrum, and free playground for kids during the fair. Multi-TV Habitat Fair 2016 is brought to you by the following. SETI Reality, fair and affordable housing is the basic right for all. Caspon Limited, your home of quality marble and granite. JL Properties, we build you a home. Auto Centrum, love your car. Noble Realty, own a noble property today. And Elegant Homes and General Construction, where quality meets value. Now, to exhibit your housing products and services during the fair, please contact the following numbers: 0540 106 468. And then this one is 0540 123 799. Habitat Fair 2016, affordable housing for all. Multi-TV, as you know, just thrills. What are you, Hearts or Kotoko?
Hearts of Folk.
Yeah, Hearts of Folk.
Yeah.
That's my mind.
Fabulous one.
Look at that. Look at that. Well, let me remind you that the nation's heartbeat, Ghana Premier League, shows every Saturday on your leading channel, Adom TV. For all the cheers, tears, suspense, and thrills, don't miss the Never Say Die Accra Hearts of Folk, the fabulous Kumasi Asante Kotoko, the mysterious Ebusua Dwarfs, Hazakers, secondly Hazakers, and the new kids on the block, Mediama, Liberty, Professionals, Brekum, Chelsea, Techiman City, Wild Stars, New DBRC, and all other premier giants on your favorite channel, Adom TV, every Saturday. It's the Ghana Premier League only on Adom TV, and they're saying, yeah, what Azioye, and why won't they be Azioye? But let me come back straight to studio and find out from my young dynamic courage, Kwesi Nobi, non-teaching staff who are also taking research allowance. I don't know, like if the janitors are also applying for some new methods of cleaning, or the secretary or the administrator or Beza.
I think that is a major problem. You're looking at a country that spends a woeful 5% of its GDP on education. That is very little. If you're talking about, I heard the Deputy Minister talk about spending at least 1% of GDP, that's the AU target, on research alone. You cannot go around giving money to administrators who obviously do no research to be receiving allowances for that. So the 2015 sector review actually recommended that government should track expenditure in order to inform changes. We've not seen provisions made for that in the 2016 budget. And yet, this huge sum, because we're in an election year, and I'm very convinced, we at YOGAP are very convinced of that. This is election year spending. Had this been 2015, 2014, they will not receive anything. The lecturers didn't have received anything.
So where will this money come from? Because, we are quite tight.
Exactly our concern. Because in the budget, allocation to education has been dwindling. And then all of a sudden, an amount that was not made available for it, not in the budget and everything, comes up from where? From nowhere, and it is given to teachers. Government must tell us where this money is coming from, because you cannot go on such an expenditure as we saw in the year 2012. There was so much discretionary expenditure, and at the end of the day, getting into 2013, our fiscal position was in danger. We were in problem, and we were not in a position to explain exactly how those expenditures came about. You see allocation from Get Fund to education very constant, be a mere 22%. The government of Ghana is doing about 64%, donor funding 2%. Now put all of this together, and we are still doing less than we should be doing in percentage terms to the sector. Especially primary education is declining. Now that is the sector that is quite fundamental, and everything. And I would expect a government to come up and say, well, in the budget we didn't make provision, but we are giving 37 million cedis into primary education because we think it's so important. That is not to say that lecturers should not receive the allowance. again,
shape them before they grow.
You shouldn't have even touched the allowance in the first place. Exactly, and everything. And to be giving allowance to administrators for book and research, I don't think that is proper.
Before I come to you, this one says, Nana, it's true. Most lecturers do research. Unfortunately, some of them do not upgrade their lecture notes at all. I had a lecturer who always gave out old lecture notes which have been there for decades to students. What worries me is why non-academic staff representing a third of the beneficiaries to research and book allowance also enjoying this party. Papa Tieku in Koforidia.
Well, I speak for UTAG, and I know that our members are deserving of the book and research allowances. As to how the others got on board, I am not sure. I know that history, and it is not for me to sit here and determine who qualifies to enjoy it and who doesn't. I'm not too sure what led to their getting involved with receiving the book allowance. But generally, I know that the non-teaching staff, what they get is only the book component, not the research component. The research component, which is only 500 Ghana cedis, they don't.
I mean, is their book component a palaver?
Well, so generally, that is what it is. They are enjoying it, and we don't know how they got on board. We know that it's something that UTAG negotiated for. UTAG had requested for an increase since 2009, and then the indication was that once they were going to go onto the single spine pay policy, we needed to hold on and get, when categories 2 and 3 allowances are negotiated, then we can think of tabling the book and research allowances for upward review. It's strange to hear that that is what is going to populate the National Research Fund. Unfortunately, UTAG's position on that is that we are not giving up that because it's part of our condition of service, and you cannot legislate that away without recourse to negotiations with UTAG. And so we have not been engaged on the future of the book and research allowances as we speak. And so
but
what we do know...
What we're saying now, there's a bill coming, it's gone through cabinet, blah, blah. So when it finally comes, are you going to kick against it?
No, certainly what it is that the stakeholder consultations are yet to happen. And so we certainly will make our input, and we don't expect that...
Are you part of the negotiations?
Oh, so what is once the bill comes, we are going to be part of, because they've advertised for memos to be brought if you have anything. And so UTAG is making a presentation, certainly. The number of issues, the initial draft, which we cited, categorically indicated that book and research allowances was going to be the seed money. And so UTAG immediately kicked against that. And then the current one that is before Parliament, we have not seen any categorical statement that suggests that the book and research allowances was going to be
You mentioned something about the upgrade, where you send your notes for upgrade or betterment. You
standardization.
Standardization. Can you now say that, listen, don't mark me standard because I haven't gotten any money to standardize my notes?
Well,
you have a justification now.
The reality...
Quality assurance, yeah.
Quality assurance. Yeah. The reality is that if you are to be a university, a world-class university as we seek to be, that is what we should be doing. We certainly have to revise our notes. We certainly have to develop new courses. We certainly have to, and many of the departments are undergoing transformation, change in names. People are introducing new courses which have meaning in terms of the development needs of our country. And so without that, then you are not going to be able to do all of these. The South African example, the Deputy Minister mentioned, South Africa, you publish one paper in a quality journal, you get $1,000 as an individual. And then the department gets a certain amount as well to populate the fund.
Every weekend you just sit down
and so
get a good publication.
If that is the incentive, at the close of the academic year, if you are able to produce 10 papers.
Well, all too soon, that's what time will I mean, if you can round it up quickly.
Quickly, if you want to know how the education sector is, we hear of schools under trees and everything. Of all the money that goes to the education, that will full amount. You have 75% going into emolument. You have 20% going into goods and services. and 5% going to assets. Who is building the classroom, the teachers' bungalows, and all of that? We have an education problem in this country.
This conversation,
this is not a solution.
I have a feeling, may continue. But the number you want is 024 366 201. 024 366 2001. That's Tanti's Fashion House. They're right near Nyaho Clinic. But wherever you are in the country, you give them a call. They're having a good 10%. They'll post your shirt to you. That's if you want a shirt as nice as mine. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on the show. And I look forward to extending this conversation when we're looking at the revolution in education. Thank you very much for watching. Tomorrow we'll be back to do this all over again. It's really interesting.